Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are full steam ahead on the campaign trail. With the finish line in sight, both candidates are blitzing those battleground states. On Friday, they visited 3.
And no rest on the last weekend before the election. Hillary Clinton will be in Florida and Pennsylvania on Saturday, while Donald Trump will be in Florida, North Carolina, Nevada, and Colorado.
With us now on set are 2 CBSN political contributors, Republican strategist Leslie Sanchez and Democratic strategist Lis Smith. So we have some news, brand new news into the newsroom here, and that is Governor Christie was scheduled to stump for Trump in Pennsylvania. Now they are saying that he has canceled his 3 appearances in New Hampshire, saying that his changed his schedule. And this in light of today's verdict with 2 of his former staff
I'm surprised
members.
he waited this long.
Sorry, I laughed at the euphemism of change his schedule. You know, when we talk about closing arguments, Donald Trump's closing argument against Hillary Clinton is that she is corrupt and you can't trust her. And today we had 2 of Governor Christie's top aides convicted of, public corruption and abuse of power. So it would have been completely contradictory for the Trump campaign to send him out there. It would have been distracted from the message. It would have become a circus. But as a Democrat, it makes me very sad that Donald Trump did not pick Governor Christie as his VP. And also, think about it. All the big news in this campaign the last few weeks has come out on Fridays. And if Christie had been his VP, it would have continued the tradition. So I doubt that Leslie feels as positively or, has as big a smile on her face as I do.
I'm excited he's not the VP, too.
I think that's why Mike Pence was selected?
That was such a mismatch of who was going to do what. And there were so many rumors about Donald Trump actually wanting Chris Christie, and then his family kind of came forward and looked for specifically these reasons. The fact he had the pall and this hanging over the campaign, the investigation going on. And the second part, the second shoe that may drop is that Governor Christie may also be implicated in further charges that move forward. There's just no idea of that. So she's exactly right. Under the mantle, if the choice is between temperament and corruption, meaning these 2 candidates, you really can't bring that conversation into the Trump campaign right now.
What's amazing too is that Christie was seen as kind of one of his only not totally D-list surrogates, and now he's completely
D-list. Wow.
I mean, look, he's up against
Scott Baio is a really respected.
I mean, look, he's up against Scott Baio, Rudy
Anthony
Giuliani.
Sabato Jr.
But he was one of the first to come out and support Trump.
And it was a big deal when he came out.
Right.
And now he's someone. This was seen. And who knows what will happen legally, but this is pretty much the final nail in Christie's political coffin.
Well, he's been extremely unpopular for a very long time. We knew that. He was even unpopular within the Trump campaign, so there's been a lot of distance. He has not been on the stump for him. He's been dealing with his state issues, as they say, which is a nice euphemism for got to clean up your own house. But more importantly, I think it was exactly the right thing to do. It did come late in the day, this announcement, but Liz called it very early, and I had to agree with her that there's no way you wanted the governor out on the campaign trail. It's a complete distraction. And finally, you're seeing Donald Trump very focused on where he's going. He's looking directly at Hillary Clinton, and he's starting to see where this finish line is and working in those battleground. Among those swing voters, very small, but critically important to see.
Well, let's take a look at the map here, Leslie. Nate Silver tweeted on Friday saying the map is getting messier, that there's not a clear firewall for Hillary Clinton, North Carolina, Nevada. What kind of momentum? Major Garrett said that this is part of Trump's persona. When he sees the finish line, when he sees the golden apple in sight, he goes for it.
No, and that's actually what a true kind of a pioneer, a champion, or somebody who's been an entrepreneur certainly understands and gets. I think it's part of his DNA, and it's one of the aspects of his personality that is working for him now. We've seen a lot of times when it's backfired and shot the other way. This is really critical that he finally focus on this. But more importantly, we've known from the beginning, and we've sat here for many, many months, that his base of support is extremely energized, and it's really grown. It's been an organic effort. It would have built up speed more naturally had you not had all of these different kind of critical factors that came out about Donald Trump and his own mouth, quite honestly, which has been the biggest detriment for not only swing voters, but base Republicans. But things are changing, and all of that has to do with the contrast with Hillary Clinton and this investigation and the continuing with the emails and what that means for the country moving forward. So it isn't just about next Tuesday, it's about what the next 2 years are really going to look like.
Who has the momentum right now?
Certainly, I would believe. Okay, so polls are going to tell you a little bit of both. There's one that just came out that just said, oh, it's stabilizing. But if you really talk to folks on the ground in terms of energy and intensity, we're always measuring intensity, it really is Donald Trump, and that has been consistent.
Liz, could the Democrats have been saying that they've been very successful in early voting?
Yes.
Could that somehow dampen voting on Election Day? In other words, a lot of people see the numbers of people who voted in the early vote states, and they're saying, look, we may have a little bit of momentum here. I'm not as concerned as getting to my voting booth on the 8th. You think that could happen?
I think it's largely kind of like a political junkie game, and it's something we pay attention to, but I don't know that the average voter pays attention to it. But it is very important that you talk about early vote, because Democrats have racked up some really important early vote numbers in Ohio, in Florida, in other states. And one important thing, and Nevada too, one very important thing that we've seen is, Leslie just talked about Donald Trump expanding his base and the enthusiasm, but the reality is that his base is white people. And the Latino enthusiasm in this election is off the charts, and this could be an election, and the first election in history that has been decided by Latinos, and that will be, I think, the ultimate justice, given all the offensive things that Donald Trump has said throughout this campaign, policy-wise, and toward people like Judge Curiel regarding Latinos.
Let me ask you both, and it's interesting to me, and I've talked about this, because there's a new CBS poll out that shows that people find Hillary Clinton less trustworthy than Donald Trump. But meanwhile, the Washington Post has gone and done some reporting on this, and they've said that of all the statements that Donald Trump has made or released, 69%, almost 70% of those statements are for Pinocchios. That means just flat out lies, whereas hers are, something around 20%. And yet the perception is that she is less trustworthy than him. I'm just asking both of you as strategists, and not as partisans, to sort of explain to our viewers why that would be.
The interesting part about Trump as an outsider is he's seen as authentic and not part of a system. He did not initially take campaign money, which was a really critical thing. He wasn't beholden to the special interest. And then it exposed that vulnerability under Hillary Clinton, and Bernie Sanders did a very good job of that throughout the primary. She's bought by special interests, the banks on Wall Street, she's not working for herself. So it felt like anything that Hillary Clinton had said, and then you have 30 years to look back, was for political posturing, for political motives, and if you wrote a big enough check that you could get in her ear and perhaps have influence. Donald Trump came away from that. So when we said both had extremely high negatives, voters were going to look at the next variable, and none of us knew what that was going to be, and it turns out to be trustworthiness. So I think the real question is, who's more authentic? Do you really believe
But even if
Trump
you're authentic, but you lie.
No, but people believe when Trump says those horrible things that he really means them. I mean, it goes both ways, right? And they also believe when he wants to kind of zero out a lot of that corruption, they give him the benefit of the doubt on that too.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the point that a lot of voters don't follow what PolitiFact says. They don't follow
Right.
the Pinocchios in the Washington Post. But Hillary Clinton has been harmed by 30 years of getting pummeled as, the next coming of Lady Macbeth. And there is no doubt that some of this is self-inflicted, especially this cycle. The secret email server, this drip out of WikiLeaks about, her behind-the-scenes paid Wall Street speeches. Now, the central question in this election will be, will people choose the person they don't think is the most honest, or will they choose a person that they don't think has the temperament to serve as commander-in-chief? It is not a great choice for the American people. I don't think anyone is going to leave this thinking that this is the greatest election of all time.
Right.
But Democrats are confident that regardless of her honesty issues, that voters will side with her over Donald Trump, because they just don't trust him to keep our country safe and not, lead us into economic and global chaos.
All right, Leslie Sanchez and Lis Smith, always great to talk to you guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.